The 20s are a kind of mythical decade, and everyone has an opinion about what you should be doing. People are always telling us to build a career, travel the world, make mistakes, fall in love, don't fall in love, get married, never get married, start a business, move to Japan, get a master's degree. It is crazy. It's so confusing. And it's like the world hands us all these different roadmaps, but they're all leading in different directions. So there's so much noise and there's so many conflicting versions of what these years are supposed to look like. It's almost impossible to hear your own voice underneath it. And for me personally, as I've been moving through this decade myself, I've realized how much of what I was told about my 20s is just not true. And I don't think it's because people mean to harm. I don't think they want to lie, but it's just because so many of us repeat advice that was never tested, or maybe it's advice that really only worked for someone else's life. And I've spent a lot of time these past years reflecting and journaling and traveling and having really long, unfiltered conversations with people of all ages from all around the world. And at some point, I started asking people, what's the biggest lie you were told in your 20s? The answers are different, but there are patterns that are really familiar. So we're sold so many lies about what this decade should be and about who we should be. And most of us don't even question them until we're deep in the burnout or deep in the heartbreak or the crash out. And then you realize that you've been living by someone else's definition of success or love or what a meaningful life should be. So that is what this episode is about. The biggest lies we've been sold about our 20s and how to get a little closer to the truth. Welcome back to Lost and Found, the podcast where we're figuring things out in real time together. I'm your host, Carmen Wiet, and it's so nice to spend this time with you. I'm looking at my notes now. I'm not actually exactly sure how many lies I wrote down. Maybe around 10. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start with lies specifically about romance and love, because I think that is such a big topic during this time of our lives. So the first one, being in love equals butterflies. And this is such a prominent lie, and it's fed to us from everywhere. Movies, books, friends. We grow up believing that love is supposed to feel like fireworks that rush in your stomach and that dizzy euphoria when they don't text back. But, and this lesson I learned the hard way a few times, butterflies are often just anxiety playing dress up. Most of the time, I think it's just your nervous system telling you that this person isn't safe. They're not consistent. They're playing hot and cold with you. But, of course, we often mistake that for excitement, right? When really it's just your body reacting to uncertainty and reacting to that pattern of getting validation and then that validation being taken away. Hear me out, though. I'm not saying that you should then avoid butterflies at all cost, or you should avoid people who make you feel too excited. That's not at all what I'm saying. I think there's a place for that. Everyone should experience a little toxic fun, a little danger in a relationship. It's fine. I mean, it's a rite of passage, really. And anyway, it's only by going through a relationship like that you learn to recognize when you're really in love with someone versus just infatuated with them and hooked on that feeling of love bombing, that hot and cold game. So yeah, have your fun. Be overly dramatic. Collect all the crazy dating stories that make your friends laugh and roll their eyes, but take it for what it is. And this is why I want to make you aware of this lie specifically. Because if you start believing that feeling of debilitating, can't eat, can't think, butterflies to a point where you cannot function, that kind of anxiety, if you start to think that that is what real love feels like, that's when you're in dangerous territory. Because that's when it stops being a fun story and it starts becoming a self-destructive pattern. That's when you stop experiencing something for the thrill of it and you're getting overly invested in something that in the long run has the potential to destroy your relationship with yourself. That relationship that makes you feel like you're going crazy. You are constantly checking your phone, wondering why they haven't replied yet. You're feeling jealous. You're playing the conversations you had with that person over and over in your head. But really, that isn't being in love. What you're feeling in that moment is cultivated and constructed by someone who knows how to play that kind of game. Or perhaps it's just the feelings you have for someone who isn't really interested in you. And if you hold on to that kind of relationship, it will end up chipping away at your sense of self, your self-respect, and your ability to trust your own intuition, because you start mistaking chaos and confusion for connection. But in my experience, real love feels easy and it feels natural, and you won't have to question it or constantly second guess yourself or have these panic attacks and feelings of anxiety. Real love feels like an exhale, and it feels safe, and it's someone you can trust. It's still exciting, it's still electric, but it's grounded and it feels safer. I read something the other day that was really beautiful. It said that real love doesn't breed obsession. You will never obsess over someone who actually wants you, because obsession isn't born from love. It's born from uncertainty, and it feeds on mixed signals and unmet needs, and that tension and disconnect between what they say and what they do. So it lives in that gap. But when something is real and when something is reciprocated, that gap just isn't there. Okay, following from that, another lie is this idea that heartbreak is messy, but it's beautiful. And this one is interesting because heartbreak is one of those things that we love to romanticize. We think that every breakup leads to a glow up. So you cry for a weekend, you binge watch a few sad movies, and then you go out with your friends and you find a rebound to prove that you're fine. And sure, yeah, that's a breakup. That's a normal breakup. But real heartbreak, the kind where you loved someone deeply and that love was shattered or betrayed or maybe made irrelevant overnight, that kind of heartbreak is not poetic and it's not cinematic. It is debilitating. You lose your appetite. You find yourself sleeping 14 hours a day. You feel physically sick and you don't really know why. And that kind of heartbreak I wouldn't wish on anyone. While I was prepping for this episode, I reread the journal I kept during a breakup about a year and a half ago. I've always kept journals. I think reading them back might be one of the most healing things you can do, because in a way you get to witness yourself and where your mind and your heart was at that point in your life. And you see who you were before you knew better, and you get to hold that version of yourself with compassion. But anyway, in rereading these journals, something shocked me. While I was reading, I realized I hadn't thought about the person that I dated. I hadn't thought about him in months, which is wild, because there was a time when I genuinely believed I would never move on. There was a time when I woke up with like an ache in my chest every morning, and it was all like think about, and I was so scared that that pain would never go away. But slowly, and without any kind of dramatic moment, life just kept happening. New cities, new friends, new versions of myself. And one day, without even realizing it, I just stopped thinking about it. And now when I look back, the memory feels almost covered in this soft gauze, like maybe a scab has formed over the wound. I can remember the pain, but I can't feel it anymore. I can't access it. The only pain I feel now is for that past version of me who had to go through that. I can't feel the pain of the heartbreak anymore. I remember it, but it's not a presence for me anymore. And I think that is true healing. So here's what I want to say to you. If you are in the thick of heartbreak right now, please know that you are not weak for feeling destroyed. You are not dramatic. You do not need to bounce back or hit the gym or reinvent yourself immediately. You are allowed to collapse for a little bit. You are allowed to take your time. And you are allowed to not make it beautiful yet, because real heartbreak is not beautiful while you're in it. It's only beautiful in hindsight, when you realize You survived something that you once thought would kill you. When you realized that you didn't just recover, but you became wiser and softer and more deliberate about who you trusted or what you allowed to touch you. And so the bad news is, yes, it takes time, but the good news is it just takes time. Okay, the last one that has to do with love and romance is the lie that everyone has one soulmate. Now, please don't get mad at me for this one. Hear me out. I used to really believe that we walk around the world as a half. Like there's only one person out there, one exact person, and they're made for us, and they're kind of this missing piece, the one who would make everything make sense and they'll complete us. And then I realized if that were true, how wild is it that so many people, almost everyone, just so happens to find this one perfect match in their hometown or at their university or within their language and culture and social circle. Isn't that interesting? Like, statistically, think about it. If there was only one soulmate for you on this entire planet, the chances of them being in your high school English class are basically zero. Your soulmate would more likely be a girl in a fishing village in Indonesia, or a Peruvian sheep farmer, or some 75-year-old Indian guy. But most of us find love in familiar places because we fall in love with who we have access to, who we cross paths with, and who we are open to at the time. And I'm not saying that to cheapen love. No, if anything, it makes it feel more miraculous. Because what I've learned, especially after traveling full-time for the past 2.5 years, is that there are so many people in this world that you could build a beautiful life with. I've met a few people in these past years that I probably could have loved deeply. People who, in another life, maybe I could have spent a lifetime with. And each of those lives would have shaped me into completely different versions of myself. And that realization is actually incredibly freeing. Because it means when something ends, even something big and meaningful, even something that you thought was it, like this is the one, if that ends, it doesn't mean that you've lost your only shot at love. It just means that you're being rerouted. It means there is more life and more love and more growth and becoming ahead of you. And so you don't have to cling. You don't have to force something that isn't flowing, and you don't have to stay in a relationship just because you once believed that this was your forever person. You will love again. Yes, you will love differently. And some loves will be deeper, some will be safer, some will be more aligned than anything you've ever experienced before, and some won't be for you. If there's one piece of advice I could give to anyone in their early 20s, if I could only choose one, so that's a big deal, this would be it. Experiment with love. Date different kinds of people. Don't box yourself into one version of life before you know who you even are. So give yourself room to discover what you want, who you are, what you like. Because you learn who you are and what you like through contrast, through experience. Because even if you end up meeting the perfect person in high school and you're with that person forever, the sad thing is that you won't ever really know how great it is because you have nothing to compare it to. So even if you think it's the right person for you, but you're 19 and you've never had anything else, I still would tell you, go out, experience life, find out who you are and what you like and what you don't like, untethered to somebody else. When you don't have a responsibility for somebody else's emotions, figure that out. And then when you go back or when you find something similar, when you find something maybe completely different, then at least you will know this really is it. And when I say I believe that we have multiple soulmates, I don't mean connection isn't rare. A real magnetic life-shaping connection is still rare. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily only happen once. Which means when you do eventually choose someone, when you decide this is my person, it's not because they're the only one who could have fit. It's because in a world full of infinite possibilities, you chose them. you chose to stay. You chose to build something with that person, even though there are other options out there. You chose to love them on purpose. And to me, that's a more beautiful kind of connection, kind of love, than just something that could be labeled as blind destiny, because it's a conscious choice. It's devotion. Okay, another lie that we're sold in our 20s is, and now I want to kind of move away from the love and the romance, go a bit more into work, our ideas about what a meaningful life is, friendships, lifestyle, that kind of thing. Another lie. If something is a phase, it's worthless. This, I think, is a sneaky lie that we pick up. This idea that temporary things don't matter. That if something didn't last forever, it was a waste of time, like a failed relationship or a dead-end job or a hobby you got obsessed with for like 4 months and then you dropped it. Or maybe a city you moved to and you left, or you went to university but you didn't finish. We tend to see these things as failures, but they're not. We talk about phases as if they're embarrassing, like they're something we need to outgrow or completely delete from our personality. But phases are where the growth happens. Phases are how we try things on and how we experiment and how we find out whether something fits and what doesn't. That's how we form a sense of self. Every version of you is a stepping stone to the person you are today. Nothing is lost, nothing is wasted. You are a culmination of all these phases that you went through. And I think we underestimate how brave it is to let yourself shift, to change your mind, to admit that, yeah, I thought this was me until it wasn't. A lot of people take that as inconsistency, but really that's just growth. It's just change. Everybody changes. Some eras last years, some last 2 weeks, sometimes it's just a summer, but none of them are meaningless. And I think back on my own phases, to the projects I poured myself into and then abandoned. And at the time, you really think that that chapter is your whole life. But now I prefer to see it as bridges. It's like a training ground. It's a necessary rehearsal for a self that you haven't met yet. So if you're in a phase right now, one that feels uncertain or messy or temporary, you don't need to justify it. You don't need to explain or defend it. Just live it. Let it teach you what it's meant to teach you. You are not meant to stay the same. You're supposed to grow out of identities, out of love, out of rooms that you once fit into, and out of versions of yourself that maybe once felt like home. Because otherwise you aren't growing up, you aren't experiencing anything if you stay the same. But just because you grow out of them doesn't mean it didn't matter. Another lie. Maturity means having it all together. You know that thing that went around the internet a while ago where someone said the wildest part about growing up is realizing that a lot of your teachers were just in their 20s. When you were in school, they were just kids like we are now. They were probably staying up too late, coming to school hungover, falling in and out of love, making mistakes, having identity crises. And then they had to come to the classroom and kind of be in charge and be an adult. Once I saw that, I started extrapolating that idea to everything. Because that's the case for everybody. My mom, I recently figured this out. My mom was my age when she met my dad, 24. My grandma at 24 had already had my mother. These people that we always look up to as adults, like fully formed, stable, certain human beings, they're just us, They're just people trying, guessing, learning, hoping they were making the right choices. And sometimes they're making mistakes and they're learning from it and they're just figuring it out. I don't think anyone reaches an age where they just magically know how to do life. Everyone is just doing their best with the tools that they have and the awareness that they have reached. So this idea that maturity means being composed or collected or having all the answers, that's a lie. Maturity is not certainty. Maturity is being able to say, I'm still learning. I don't know everything yet, and I don't have to pretend that I do. So to me, being mature is being someone who can be kind when it's easier to be defensive. Someone who can soften instead of shutting down. Someone who can apologize when they have to. Who can hold space for nuance. That's such a big part of being mature, is to see nuance, see the gray areas, realize that everything isn't just black and white. People are complicated and growing and flawed, including you. So if you can recognize that in other people, that's when you can have empathy and compassion. So I think the most adult thing you can do is to admit that you're still figuring it out and give everyone else the grace to figure it out too. That's what I have to say about maturity. The next one is a lie that I've talked about on the podcast. My whole life's purpose is to help people uncover this lie and to figure out what the truth is for them. And this lie is that success is all about money and status. This is probably the loudest lie that we're sold in our 20s. It's the one that gets marketed to us every single day. It's in the way we talk about ambition and purpose. We are taught to want things that look impressive or things that sound fancy at a dinner party. We chase a number in our bank account, the right neighborhood, the clothes that signal that, oh, I'm doing well. And success then becomes something that other people can see, so it's something performed. A version of success can be that you just want to live a quiet life by the beach and you fish and you have a few friends, or maybe you do want to climb the corporate ladder. Or maybe you want to do a PhD because all you want to do is study and you love reading. Or maybe you want to live off the grid and be a mountaineer or something. The point is that success can not be measured by money. Success is not about visibility. It's about vitality. It's about waking up and being proud of how you spend your time. It is liking the person you are when no one is watching. And it's also having room in your life to breathe and to play and to create. And it's being able to walk away from things that don't feel right for you. So I think that true success is about having self-trust, having peace, having energy, presence, feeling alive in your own life. When it comes down to it, I think that's what most people are actually craving. Not more money or more recognition, but we're craving a life that feels like our own. I've done a bunch of episodes on this idea of what success actually means and how to get down to your definition of it and build a life that feels like yours, build a life that you're excited to wake up to every day. So go look in the archives. There's so many episodes about that. Think about your idea of success, and if that idea makes you stressed or anxious, or it makes you compare yourself to other people constantly, that I don't think is success. That's ego and it's fear. I think success is when the external and the internal finally match, and when the life you live aligns with the life you wanted and it makes you feel good. Maybe that's big and loud, or it might be slow and soft and quiet. Either is valid, either is worthy, as long as you decided that's what you want and it feels like yours. Following from that, there's another lie, and I think this one might be a little bit more controversial, more ingrained in how we see success and how we see life. And it's this idea that getting what you want and being successful has to be hard. Somewhere along the lines, when we're growing up, we are taught that you have to work hard to get what you want. That if you struggle for something, it means that it's valuable. That something needs to exhaust you. You need to prove something for it to count. And so we celebrate this hustle culture and we glorify the grind, and we tell stories about suffering because we think suffering makes the story worth telling. And don't get me wrong, yes, it's life, right? Hard things will happen. We will be humbled and stretched. And as you grow older, you learn grit because life doesn't really give you a choice. Things happen and you have to deal with it, yes. But that doesn't mean that everything that is meaningful has to hurt. And that doesn't mean that when something is easy, we have to be suspicious of it. Sometimes the things that are right for us just come naturally and they unfold without force. And that can look like that person who just fits into your life. Or you get the job that energizes you instead of draining you. When something is right, yes, of course, there is still effort. But the effort almost feels easy because there's flow, there's momentum. It feels like it's coming easy to you because the work that you have to put in comes easy and it makes you happy. It doesn't feel like a struggle. And I want to tell you, it is allowed to be that good. Everything is allowed to work out. Sometimes the thing that comes easily is the thing that's actually meant for you. Sometimes the universe isn't testing you, it's inviting you. I think the biggest lie we're sold about friendships is that your oldest friends are your truest friends. This is a hard one. It touches something tender. Loyalty and nostalgia and childhood versions of ourselves. And we're taught that the people who've been in our lives the longest are the ones who know us best. We think that history equals closeness and that time is a metric of loyalty. But some people know who you were, but they don't really know or have the capacity to understand who you are becoming. Sometimes when people say you've changed, I think what they really mean is, I can't quite keep up with your growth. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. Yes, we cling to friendships because of memories, those inside jokes that we shared, or the summers that felt endless, and sleepovers and first loves, and those moments were real. They mattered. They shaped us. But not everything that shapes you is meant to stay forever. This is what we talked about, the phases. Some friendships are just chapters, and that's not a failure. It's still beautiful. Making friends as an adult has really taught me that the friendships you make when you choose that person can be a way deeper friendship and a truer friendship than the one that was born out of context. When we're younger, we sit next to somebody in our math class, and because of the context and proximity, we become friends. When you're an adult, you have to consciously choose, this person feels aligned. It feels like we have the same energy, the same values, and you consciously have to spend time with them. And that can be more meaningful than childhood friendships. And yeah, it's painful to outgrow people. And sometimes people outgrow you. There's grief in that. But also, one of the most loving things you can do for yourself is to let the connections that no longer nourish you just fall away gently. The right people won't just remember your history, they will support your evolution. Okay, the last lie. You are enough just as you are. This one sounds beautiful. It gets thrown around a lot, and I think the intention behind it is really good because it's meant to soothe, right? To remind us that we don't need to constantly perform or prove ourselves to be worthy of love. And yes, I do think that part is true. You are enough, just as you are. You always have been. You do not have to earn the right to take up space, and you do not have to become perfect to deserve love and care and opportunity and peace and good things. But this, I think, is where the message gets twisted. Because we started using "you're enough" as permission to stay exactly the same. Almost as an excuse not to grow and not to take responsibility and not to step into the life that we actually want. So I want to reframe that. You are enough to start. You are enough to begin, but you are not enough just to stop. You cannot be stagnant. That's not a life. Self-love is not passive. It's not just bubble baths and blankets and Sundays in bed and saying, this is just who I am. No, self-love is active because it's a relationship with yourself. It's saying, I care about me too much to stay in patterns that hurt me. And I want better for myself. And I'm willing to become the person who can handle better. You can know that you are enough and still want more. More aliveness, more depth, more presence, more things that excite you in your life. And wanting to grow doesn't mean you think that you are not good enough. It just means that you can feel the person who you're meant to become pulling at you from the inside, calling you, inviting you to step into that. But again, let's circle back. When I say I am enough, I do not mean I am perfect. And I do not mean that I'm already everything I want to be. I'm saying that, yes, I'm enough to start, but I'm also worthy of becoming more. If I think about self-love, I think about the love that a parent has for a child. A good parent, obviously, because I know not all parents are great people or great at raising a child, but let's think about a good parent. How do you parent someone well? You love them, and you are soft when you need to be, and you forgive when you need to. You offer them compassion and kindness, and you tell them to take a breath and don't be so hard on yourself when needed. But then also you hold them accountable to doing the things that you know are best for them. Like brushing your teeth when you maybe don't want to. That's a small example, but you can give a bigger example. Like getting up and doing the work even though you're tired. Studying for the exam. Parental love, like self-love, should hold you accountable to live the best life that you possibly can, one that's going to give you the most possible joy and contentment. Again, you are enough to start, but you can't stop there. Thank you for spending this time with me. A lot was said. We covered a lot of ground. But if there's one thing I hope you take from this episode, it is this. There's no one right way to do your 20s. There's no perfect timeline. There's no exact path. No universal formula for love and success and identity and growth. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to outgrow people and cities and dreams and versions of yourself. You are allowed not to know. You are allowed to learn by doing, and you are allowed to try again. The point of this decade is not to get everything right and to try every single thing. It is just to live, to feel deeply, to attempt to figure it out, to ask questions, to fuck up sometimes, to rebuild and stretch, and to learn what actually matters to you by trying on what doesn't. And if you're moving through something really hard right now, maybe you're going through a heartbreak or a really uncertain time, or you're feeling lonely and confused, please know that that is part of the curriculum. That's not a failure. It's just, I think, part and parcel of being in your 20s, of being a human being, honestly. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lost. You are living. You're in the thick of it. And you are becoming a person you haven't met yet. That's allowed to take time. If this episode helped you, or if it made you feel a little less alone, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Take a moment to leave a rating and a review. It really helps the podcast reach people who need to hear it most. I'm your host, Carmen Vit, and as always, remember to get a little lost this week. That's where the magic finds you. Until next time.